everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of Humans of STEMPeers series, a collaboration between the Addictive brain and STEMPeers. Today we have with us Dr. Ipsa Jain. Ipsa is a scientist turned illustrator from India. She moved to science art and science communication after her postdoc. She makes STEM-based zines and children's book. She is also the founder of Ipsa Wonders, her science art and science communication platform. Today we will talk with Ipsa about her research, science communication, science art, ClubSciWri, and Ipsa Wonders. Thank you, Ipsa, for joining us today.
You're welcome. Happy to be here, Chapman.
So, can you tell us something about your research, your PhD and postdoc work?
So I did my PhD at the Indian Institute of Science, and I was a regular run-of-the-mill cell biologist, pipetting solution from one tube to the other.
Okay.
And I worked on cancer cells. I was trying to understand the molecular mechanisms behind drug resistance. And so that was what my PhD was about. And there was a short break between my PhD and postdoc, and that's really the time when I started exploring science illustration and science art. And during that phase, I happened to meet Minaj, who at a conference at ISA Pune, and that's where we interacted about what I was currently doing. And then he offered me a unique position, a postdoctoral fellowship, where I could work on scientific visualization in a lab. So I was this person who, instead of using a pipette, was using a pencil and a stylus. So
That's
that was
interesting.
sort of the highlight of what made my path sort of clearer and helped me a lot.
That's interesting. So, why did you decide to move out of your postdoc or academia in general and move into science communication and science art?
So, it was essentially during my PhD experience itself that I figured out that life as a researcher is not something that I want to personally take up for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So then, once that idea was clear, I basically then spent some time introspecting about how I would like to continue my love for science and what is it that I would like to do, can do, and might also give me some financial support.
Yeah.
And that's how I arrived at science communication. But all the peers I saw around me were all science writers. I think science writers still happens to be the majority of science communication, pool. And I was sure that that's not what I want to do again. I think not knowing what to knowing what you do not want to do helps you narrow down your choices better. And then that's when the idea of sci art came in. I like to draw, and I thought that was a cool thing to do, to draw science. And that's how I started, doing that sort of work. And STEMPeers was in fact where the initiation to that work happened.
Okay. Yeah. So how did STEMPeers help you in discovering this new path that you pursued?
So it was not so much about discovering this part. It was more about being an open and free space to explore that possibility.
Yeah.
So I had started learning a little bit of illustration here and there and reading up about illustrators. And so two things happened at STEMPeers. First thing was that, I illustrated something, and then Abhinav was really kind enough to give me a space at the blog, ClubSciWri, and, publish it. And that illustration is not really great or anything, and I wouldn't show it anywhere today, but what it did do for me was give me this sense of confidence that yes, this is something that I can do, that people will like to see, and so that way it became a showcase platform for me. This is before I joined Instagram, or that before Twitter was a big thing in anyone's life, really. And the second thing that happened at STEMPeers was again, I was really one of the initial editors slash bloggers at ClubSciWri,
Yeah.
and uh, using that, I interviewed several science artists and several science illustrators and communicators, and so that those interactions with all these people from Robert Krulwich to Rohan
Mm-hmm.
Chakravarti really helped me in understanding how to think about these problems, how to approach new ideas, and like basically I grew from discussions with them,
Yeah.
and so in both of those ways, like ClubSciWri and STEMpeers was really helpful. Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's very interesting. Yeah, STEMpeers
Mm.
is helping many people right at this point.
Yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. So are you a trained artist, or when did you start drawing?
Uh, I wouldn't call myself a trained artist, and I, in fact, often use the phrase artist in training, and I'm reluctant
Mm-hmm.
to really call myself an artist. But yeah, I would definitely call myself an illustrator. I did not do a specialized training in an art like that, but I did pick up courses at Coursera and Skillshare and edX and online platforms.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, but other than that, I think being a biologist also really helps, because as a biologist, especially as a classical biologist, like I studied zoology for my graduation and my post graduation,
Yeah.
and specimen drawing and slide based observations and drawing, reflecting on those is really like a integral part of how you study those
Yeah.
kind of sciences. And so I think that also helped. And I used to draw a little bit in school. So I think all of those experiences combined gave me sort of the potential to do the kind of work that I was able to do. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Mm.
what are some of your advices or tips for someone who wants to pursue science communication as a career or science art as a career?
Science communication is a broader field, and I'm not sure if I would be the right person to necessarily answer that question. But I can speak a little bit about science illustration.
Yeah.
So, one of the first things you have to know is that what is your skill set, and are you willing to build on that skill set? So, that openness is certainly needed.
Yeah.
The second thing, which I think would be true for any science communicator, is to know what are the kind of stories you want to tell. And uh, third thing would be, after you figure those things out, work towards building a portfolio, which is a small body of work that you can share online. It could two kinds of people. One, your clients,
Yeah.
and two, your audience.
Okay.
So clients are the people who will pay you to do the work you want to do, and audience is the set of people you want to reach out to. So you also kind of need that clarity, that what are the people that can be your clients, and who are the people that you want to reach out to.
Yeah.
And both can sometimes sort of be mutually like a deciding factor. Sometimes you might decide your audience based on the client's wishes, or sometimes you might look for a set of clients based on the kind of audience you want to
Okay.
work for. Yeah, building an online portfolio, maintaining this online presence really helps in being able to do the kind of work you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are, I think, the three main advices I would give. Yeah.
Okay. But right now, like, if someone has done a PhD and just wants to move into science communication, they are not very welcomed into the society. That is what I have seen.
I mean, that will always be a struggle, and I think you have to brave through it. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. I'm imagining that you are based in US or
I'm
something,
in Canada.
or you are in Canada.
Yeah.
So, like at least in the Indian context, it's certainly true that um, uh, people who don't stay within academia, the expectation is that you're either going to go to industry, and that too, like mainly, which is like the biotech or
Yeah.
that kind of industry. I mean, industry which relies on the science that you
Yes.
studied, not like it's not appreciated if you go into say finance or something else.
Yes.
So, so there is that sense, but I think that was the kind of stuff that I had my blinders to. It's like the haters gonna hate and makers gonna make. That sort
Yes.
of attitude is what I sort of worked with, and I think with the growing body of work, people have mostly been appreciative of the work that I've been able to make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I have found a lot of support.
Yeah.
Support came from the STEMpeers community, and there are some friends that I made at STEMpeers who continue to be my collaborators and supporters even outside of STEMpeers.
Yeah.
Like my good friends, Orgyamana, Som Tattakara, Rituparna,
Yeah.
Chakrabarti, all of them I met on STEMpeers, and we became good friends by working together, some of it for ClubSciWri, and
Mm-hmm.
the things we learned and the new things we want to do, we do talk to each other about those ideas. And
Yeah.
yeah, so peer support is there, and when above, I mean, even non-peer community support is there in general. Yeah, yeah. I think after you prove yourself, I think people
Yeah.
are supportive. It just is a struggle for that duration when it's like that microbial growth curve data when you are at
Yes.
the the initial state,
The
and then
initial
it
phase,
takes time,
yes.
and then it's kind of yeah.
But can we as a society do something to change that mindset right now?
Oh, so the answer is yes. Like by just having this conversation is how you're changing their mindset.
Yes.
So all these friends I mentioned and a lot of other people I know, they talk to students, they talk, give workshops, they are active on social media. Uh, so there are spaces for these conversations, and like for a conversation to transform into a societal change will of course take time, but it's only by having these conversations that the mindset will slowly change. Yeah.
Yes. That's very important because I know of people, if I say, oh, I'm moving to industry or I'm working in Merck or somewhere else, oh, why did you leave academics? That is a very common concept that I.
Yeah, yeah, I just like ignore those people, like that's being the mantra, like uh, yeah, I like their
Yes.
opinion is a more point, is how I would put it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you do need some support because it's kind of like a scary thing to do, step out of your comfort zone. Like you're
Yes.
so comfortable using the pipette or whatever it is that
Yeah.
you've been using, and to suddenly use a different medium to think and to execute your ideas, it's a
Yeah.
scary thing. So if you have somebody in your family who supports you, somebody in your lab that supports you, some other community that supports you, I think as long as
Yes.
you have that support, you should be able to carry forward despite those haters being around you. Yeah.
Yes. Because support is
Yeah.
very important at this point when we make this transition in any phase of our life.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
you mentioned something about collaboration. So, can you specify or tell us the importance of collaboration? Why is collaboration so important?
Oh, well, like I am a fan of collaborations. So I think, I mean, like, okay, collaboration is a bigger word, like, but even if I like share my work with a friend who
Yeah.
is honest enough with me to give me feedback, which will
Yes.
help me improve my work, I even think of that exchange as a collaboration
Yes.
and not necessarily a formal collaboration where, two people or more people
Uh
get
huh.
together and create something. So any kind of dialogue and conversation where you are able to see things from a point of view that's not yours. Like if I work on something, if I'm thinking about a project that's literally like I am defined by my own capacity to think
Yeah.
about that project or think about that problem. And just working with a collaborator gives you not only a soundboard but also like opens that perspective, like
Yeah.
changes the thought bubble, the shape of that thought bubble that you carry with you,
Yes.
and that is a transformative experience, really. So I really value collaborations with scientists, other artists, and any other human that I've been able to collaborate. Like I think it's just immensely intrinsic to your growth, not only as a professional but
Yeah.
also as a person and a human being in general.
Definitely, collaboration is very important, and I have talked to many people, and everyone has mentioned collaboration is a very integral part of our life. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it is. Like this, my friend Sangata and I, who we met on
Yeah.
STEMPeers, and this was before STEMPeers was named STEMPeers. There was another name, a career support
Support
group
group.
at that point of time, and so we continue to collaborate and we co-create a lot of zines, and there's always an exchange of ideas, and like it's a symbiotic
Yeah.
relationship, collaborations. I mean, of course, you can also sometimes have bad collaborations, like you see those in sciences where people are like,
Definitely.
oh, they stole my plasmid, oh, they stole my data. But
Yes.
fortunately, in creative pursuits or science communication pursuits, I haven't heard such stories. I think the feeling is all of working together and being in a rightfully collaborative space is
Yes.
really high
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So you mentioned something about Zines. Can you tell us what are Zines?
Yeah, I literally just gave a workshop an hour ago about these.
Okay.
So these are these short form magazines,
Mm-hmm.
and I think of them as open spaces. These are like these tiny booklets which can be
Okay.
of this size to any big size. I just kept them back. I had them on my table
Mm-hmm.
here. Um, and for me, these are like little packets of ideas.
Yeah.
And what I do in the zines that I create is I mean, I'm a cell biologist and a hardcore biology nerd at heart.
Yeah.
So I like to use those space, that medium as a place to tell stories, sell and tell stories,
Yeah.
as a place to pique curiosity. So, what I like to do is ask questions
Mm-hmm.
instead of giving information.
Okay.
So, I will juxtapose in some image with a text or a bunch of images with a bunch of text
Yeah.
and leave you with a thought provoking question. That's what I do in the zine. But zine actually started as an underground medium of sharing radical ideas. This is like in the hippies era or maybe a little before that.
Yeah.
And it had political content and revolutionary content, or was
Mm-hmm.
music, and it evolved as a space to create art form, which was not something that would find space in a gallery or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like a lot of underground movement happened on scenes. Of underground movement of ideas happened on scenes, and I
Uh-huh.
have sort of appropriated that culture, if I can say that,
Yeah.
to and use it for science communication. Yeah.
Okay. So do you use any software to draw these, or do you use a pen and paper?
I mean, all my ideas, most of my ideas rather start with pen and paper, pencil and paper.
Yeah.
I do, of course, scan them and digitize them so that
Yeah.
I can make prints and put them up online and stuff like that. But
Okay.
most of my zines they start with pencil and paper.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you tell like people who want to start their career in science art, should they use your idea of like having it pen and paper and then transforming it to software, or they can directly start with the software?
Oh, I think it has to be very personal. Like for me, I mean, it's just how my brain works. Like for me to be able to think freely, I need the forgiving nature of a paper. I feel like paper is forgiving.
Yes.
or pencil is forgiving, and pencil even more so. And but if somebody is more comfortable with using Procreate or Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop, but I think you have to try and figure out where your
Yeah.
comfortable zone lies, and then make your decisions accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when I give workshops or talk to students, I still say that even if you execute it on a digital media, I think the ideation still should still
Yeah.
happen on a pen and paper, because you can scratch that off easily and then move on to the next thing. But if you just like materialize something on the medium that is going to be your final vehicle,
Yes.
um, uh, it might just constrain you in your thought process. So
Definitely.
it should be something that you can scratch and throw away or stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, like something that allows for iteration.
Yeah. That's something like writing. Even you can write on paper
Yeah.
and throw it away if you don't like it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's an undo and delete
Yes,
button and all
but
of that, but yeah, I mean, it's personal, but I
personal
think I like that.
preference.
Then, yeah,
Yes.
tangible feeling of scratching and keeping the
Yes.
thing aside. Also, actually, it's really not the same in a sense. Like when I have sort of thrown a bit of paper aside or scratched something,
Yep.
and I'm trying something, if I want to go back and look at what it is that I did wrong there, like there is that possibility. And if you undo or
Yes.
delete whatever you did, like you only have to rely on your memory of what was it that you did there. So here you can compare your past and present and use
Yes.
that to build what the future drawing will look like. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about ClubSciWri and Ipsa Wonders. Can you tell us more
Yeah.
about ClubSciWri first, and how can we
Uh,
get involved if someone wants to?
I am not currently actively involved with ClubSciWri, so I'm not sure if I'm the right person to,
Okay.
answer that question formally. But if Ruksha is still the editor, I think she's the person that you could reach out to.
Yeah.
And uh, the other thing, like as to what I did at ClubSciWri, is I joined ClubSciWri very long ago. I think it was in 2016 or 2017. This was before working with ClubSciWri with COVID.
Yeah.
At that point of time, I didn't really have a lot of people working with me towards managing ClubSciWri. So Anand Ghosh and Abhinav were the people who used to help me manage the site as well. And
Yeah.
then slowly I had friends like Rituparna and Santan and Sundata chime in.
Yeah.
And like initially I would hunt for people and be like, okay, you should come and write for ClubSciWri. I think now I think it's the other way around. People are looking up to ClubSciWri and want to approach them to write there.
Okay.
So I was with ClubSciWri at the other phase when it was really building up, and uh, yeah, and then we used Sundata and I and Rituparna, we all used to edit the articles and then put it up there.
Yeah.
We used to write ourselves also a lot so that we could have constant, delivery. So
Mm-hmm.
it was also an exercise in like this. I mean, as a PhD student, you don't really get to do these kinds of
Yes.
things where you are managing a blog, or you are trying to get things done in a certain time frame. So
Yes.
that, or you're interacting with a lot of people and getting them to do something
Yeah.
for you in some sense. So these are also kind of things that I learned by just trying to manage that blog. And
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not active on Facebook so much anymore, really. So I don't know what's the kind of sort of milieu that happens right now,
Yeah.
but we would also be very active on Facebook, sharing ideas,
Mm-hmm.
discussing, debating, and introducing people, bringing, like we were also involved in building the STEMPeers community.
Yeah.
We would bring our peers and your peers to the community, anybody who needed help or anybody who could contribute. All of like both kinds of people were
Yes.
welcome, which I know that they still are,
Okay.
and which is nice. And a lot of like we were basically part of that initial log phase,
Okay.
at ClubSciWri, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a bubbling experience, very high energy.
Yeah.
We always had new ideas of what we could do, and we would have 10 ideas and energy to maybe execute only one or two of those ideas.
Yes.
Pretty much how, a young intern would be like, who had a lot of ideas and can only get the space to execute a few of them. So it was
Yes.
really the same kind of mindset we all worked with,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was uh, really contributed to growth, and yeah, like a lot of other things also happened at with STEMpeers. Like we also contributed to one of the first STEMpeers real life event which happened in Boston. Uh, so some of my initial artwork, art prints, and all of that, like that was what was used as giveaways. The STEMpeers logo has been designed by me,
Yeah.
and um, like uh, uh, yeah, we the initial website also we contributed a lot to it in terms of design and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, like it's been mutual. Like I got a lot of community support and a space to share my ideas and
Yes.
grow my talents and grow my talents. Um, and I also found some peers who do the kind of work I do. Like the kind of work I do, they're not like a lot of people that do this sort of work. But then I found people like Kadam and um, uh, who has also become a good friend, and
Yeah.
then people that I can talk to and exchange ideas with. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
been
important.
yeah.
And what about Ipsa Wonders? It's your
Uh,
website.
so so Ipsa Wonders also probably happened around the same time as
Okay.
the time when I joined ClubSciWri, or maybe just a little later.
Yeah.
Uh, in hindsight, I think I should have not chosen a name which has my real name in it. It sounds very megalomaniac, but but at the point when I started it, it was really just a one-person labor of love, and uh, it, it was essentially at that point of time just a Facebook page for me to share my botanical or zoological illustrations or patterns that I used to create at that time. And STEMpeers community sort of also supported that in sense of giving me a space to share the work I did.
Yeah.
And, with their likes and encouraging comments, that was the kind of growth I saw.
Yes.
Um, but then I think the kind of work I have come like sort of done after some time points, I think it has. I like to think at least has evolved from there.
Yes.
So now it's not so much about a representational image, but now I'm trying to make work that's more about making my audience think,
Yeah.
making them curious, and it still, of course, relies heavily on image. And apart from doing that kind of work, then I also do the obvious work in the service of scientific community, which is like helping them with, say, images for a paper
Yeah.
or images for a grant or sometimes posters and some other like branding for conferences
Yeah.
and so on. So that's and then sometimes if some conferences or scientists have the money, I even get to do science communication kind of work
Yes.
with them, which is like creating zines or something that will be used for outreach.
Yeah.
Which is the space which I enjoy the most when I get to interact with scientists to create work that's meant to go outside
Yeah.
the academic institute, like with grants, with papers, with
Yes.
conferences. It's still very much within the domain of the scientific community.
Yes.
So yeah, I like the challenge of thinking of visual metaphors that will work to convey the story without having to use excessive jargons or descriptions
Yes,
of what's going around.
I see. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
so yeah.
So, what do you enjoy the most apart from doing these science communication and science art?
Yeah, I read or look at a lot of children's illustrated books.
Okay.
My bookshelf is literally full
Yes.
of that stuff. Um, yeah, so if like the reason I want to be rich is to be able to buy all the children's book I would
Okay.
want to buy. Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
literally the reason I want to be rich.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Well,
I think there is a sense of joy and wonder in those books.
yeah.
And like my hope is also to bring that same sense of joy and wonder in the work that I also make.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope I will be true to that aim at some point in my life. Yeah.
Definitely. And we wish you all the very best for that.
But thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you once again, Ipsa, for joining us today and sharing about science communication and science art. It was really helpful, and I'm sure our audience will enjoy it as well. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this nice conversation.
Thank you.